All right, let me know if you can relate to this story. Picture this. You're a hair salon owner and you have a manager who's been working with you maybe since like day one. They were a client, then they started as a front desk, and then you've grown, they've grown, you blink, and now they're your manager. And you don't want to be too micromanagey, like you are really confident and clear on your leadership style and how you want to be, a good, effective leader that gives them room and space to grow. But we're going to be honest about it. Some things are falling through the cracks. Does that sound familiar? Guess what? You're not alone. So many of my clients right now are struggling with something like this, and they're not even fully aware how bad it is. Because when you have someone who you have grown with, it's almost like your work husband, but someone that you've truly grown and developed a relationship with, and your business has grown and evolved over time. It's hard. It's hard to recalibrate when things aren't working. So if you're listening to this and you're like, yes, that's me, awesome. Welcome to the club. We're going to talk about leadership today. But if you're also listening and you're like, no, I have a rock star team, I think you're still going to want to pull up a chair and listen to this episode. If nothing else, let it be a cautionary tale, because today we're talking about a specific thing that I notice a lot underscore in the small business owners that I work with who have teams. And it's what I like to call leadership hot potato. So let's jump on in. What the heck does this even mean? Leadership hot potato looks like this. It's, okay, I hired so-and-so, or so-and-so has been here for a while, and I'm tired of doing these tasks. I'm going to use social media as an example because I think we can all relate. I know one of my current clients who actually loves it. Two. I have two. I have two, you know who you are, who love doing social media. They're CEOs. They have very successful companies, and they love it. Everyone else can't stand it. So I'm going to use social media as an example for this. You're a business owner. You're wearing all the hats. You have a team of employees. One of the things you want to hand off is social media. You ask your manager friend to do it. They do it, but it's not like how you would do it. Like, you would do it better. So then you take it back. And then you're like, you know what else I hate doing? Client onboarding. It takes forever. It's messy. There's so many steps. So then you have your manager do it. And they do it, but then they send that email and you would word it differently. And so you're hopping in and you're correcting the verbiage. Or you're like, you know what? You just make the proposal. I'll create the email. And then all of a sudden, now you're also doing the onboarding. Or maybe you have a team of people. You have multiple teams of people. And you're like, I hate doing one-on-ones. They're so time consuming. They're just such a time suck. So you have your manager do it. And then all of a sudden you're losing people from your team. Do you get the theme here? I think what it really boils down to is this. It's hard to hand things off, and no one's going to love your business and treat it with the same love and respect that you have because it's your baby. But I think we can get close. And my goal today is to give you a couple tools that you can go then execute on in your business that should help you be able to more firmly hand off the ball or the potato and allow your team members to run with it. Because at the end of the day, if you are growing a team of people, that's what you need to get to the next level. And to me, the end goal as an entrepreneur, a great test of this, is what can happen when you're not available. And the truth is, if you need to be involved in every minute, every day-to-day of your business, you're only going to be able to grow as far as you grow, which is fine. There are people doing that right now. Me and a coaching business. Right now, all the offers are tied to me and my time and me coaching. So that's me. I have a limit of how far I can grow. That's fine for the season I'm in. That's not my forever goal. But if you are somebody who has multiple people working under you who are also revenue producers, the sky is the limit. And in order to get there, we need to get your team members dialed in. And that is everybody from senior management down to admin support. I think it's so important to have that. And I just want you to know it's doable. And I'm going to help you with that today. So when it comes to handing off the potato, making sure that they actually hold on to it firmly and they can run with it with confidence, there's a couple things that need to happen. One is this, and I said this 2 episodes ago. I say this a lot actually, but it bears repeating. You have to confidently know where you are headed and why, and your team also has to know. I heard something recently on a podcast where the CEO was saying that they put together like a full vision presentation for the year for their team. So like Beginning of 2024 comes around. Hey, everyone, here's where we're headed and why. Here's our projections. Here's the offers that we're focusing on. Here's our marketing strategy. Here's our sales strategy, our hiring strategy, all the cards on the table for the team. How many small business owners don't do that? So many. So start with laying out a clear path forward, because the truth is, whether you are solo or a team of 60, people are looking to you. They want to know where they're headed and why. And if you don't know, they definitely don't know, and that is a problem. The other thing I see a lot is they don't know the reality of today. I'm going to share this story, and I just want to preface it by saying this has happened actually multiple times with clients of mine. So if you're listening, you're like, this is me. This is a couple different people. I can think of multiple people who have gone through this exact same scenario. On the surface, business is booming. It's beautiful. It's well known. It's branded. People know it, love it. The community knows it, loves it. But internally, the business is hemorrhaging money or just not bringing in as much as they have previously. And the CEO is just holding on to that information and not sharing it with the team. And the team is wondering, why are we out of this stuff? Or, hey, I have this idea for marketing and getting shut down constantly. But if the CEO is not sharing the reality of what's going on financially, not to the penny, not everything, but at least a general idea, that employee feels like they're just getting shut down. But the CEO is stressing the F out because they need to bring in more money or cut costs. And I just see this gap. It feels like this massive hole between the CEO and everybody else. And it's like, if things are not good and you have the right people in the right positions within your business, ideally they can help you get out of it. So it's not that you need to share to the penny how bad the situation is, but if times are different than they have been, and they know that, they're going to understand why you're making the decisions that you're making. And that's why that vision piece is so important, because if the vision is built off of a place of necessity, hey, we got to figure this out. Hey, we're really struggling with our costs. Our spending is super high. So we're actually going to spend the next couple of months really buttoning that down. Guess what? If the team's involved, they can be creative and help find processes and execute on things and hold each other accountable. But if they don't know, they're going to think you're just being cheap and then going on vacations. So that communication piece is huge. And I think that transparency with a team is important. And it doesn't mean you're failing or shameful. I mean, think of how many major corporations fail and are in the red all the time. I'm not saying that's business advice. I'm just using it as an example. They need to have some level of visibility, because if times are tough, they need to know. If times are really good and your team is like exhausted because they can't handle all the demand, they need to know, hey, lots of money's coming in. We're having a lot of growth and success. We are going to hire this next person. I know it's crazy right now and we're asking a lot of you, but don't worry. Here's the light at the end of the tunnel. They need that from you, the boss. So how else do we make sure they hold on to that potato in leadership, hot potato? They also need a growth plan. 9 times out of 10, I see this too. Entrepreneurs want to hire these unicorns who would otherwise start their own businesses. And the truth is, if you don't have a place for them to grow under your roof, they will leave you. The right people if you're hiring those right types of people, they will stay with you. They will grow to the capacity they can in that space, and then they will move to another place or start their own business. There's a special group of people. And I was talking to one of my clients. She has one on her team. We call them unicorns in my world. And that's the person who could go start their business. Like, they're savvy, they're adaptable, they're creative, they're confident, they execute, they understand the mission and vision of the company, and they believe in it. And that person could go off and start their own, but they choose not to. That's the person who needs a growth plan. And guess what, business leaders, if you're listening to this and you're the person who's like, oh, so-and-so, they're good, they're happy, they're killing it, they love it here, that's probably the person who needs the growth plan the most, because you are just neglecting them. I think back to elementary school. I don't know, elementary school teachers, if you do this anymore, but back when I was in school, they would put the students who are struggling right next to the top performing students to like level them out. That's what this reminds me of. And like, sure, that may be helpful for the students who's struggling, but if you're a good student and you focus and listen, that can be extremely distracting, and also it can diminish your experience too. So as you're listening to this, I want you to create a growth plan for everybody. Even if you have someone on your team right now that does not feel like a hell yes, they might be. They just might not have had the opportunity to shine. And that's why if they're clear on where you're headed and why as an overall business, if they know the reality of today, then they can be a part of the growth plan knowing those two pieces of the puzzle. Okay? The next piece of advice I want to provide for you is defining what success looks like in their role and how to measure it. I'm going to use the hair example again. As you know, that's the world I come from. But if you're a hairstylist, it's relatively easy to figure out what success looks like in your role. How many clients did you see? What was your take-home pay? How many people came back? What were your tips? What was the percentage? How much product did you sell? There's different metrics we can measure in that industry that, for the most part, tell you what's working and what's not working. But there's other roles within small business where it's kind of hard to measure what is working and what's not working. But if you don't define it, you will find yourself getting annoyed, frustrated, shutting down, resenting that person, avoiding that person. There's a reason. So if we can roll back the tape and if we can focus on creating the keys to success during the honeymoon phase when we're hiring and we're excited, and we clearly define what does success look like in this role and how do I measure it, then it allows us to be more clear and confident and concise. If they're missing the mark, then we can say, hey, you're awesome. I love working with you. You're so creative. But one of the things that's important to me is accuracy. And I've just noticed the last couple times you're really missing the ball in this, this, and this. And I know we've talked about it before. How can I, as a boss, how can I help support you to prevent this from happening next time? But if I'm just saying that you're letting me down or I'm not really happy with what you're doing and I can't explain why, and it's not based off a conversation we've had previously, it's not really fair, right? And it's hard to articulate when you're in the heat of the moment. But we've all been there. We can all picture we've all probably been in relationships where we're annoyed for some reason. And even if we don't know what that is, there's a reason. There's something that caused us to feel that way. So the more we can define it for ourselves as the business owner, but then also communicate that to your team members, the better. And I encourage you to come up with things like, what did you struggle with the last couple months? What could you have done better? What could we as a business have done better? And I think that will allow that conversation to be more natural, but then it's honest and it allows them to call themselves out. So that way it makes it a less intimidating conversation to have. And then they have some skin in the game too, because I think that's really important for employees as well. Another piece of this hot potato puzzle is having consistent one-on-ones that are structured, that have a game plan. And that's where that key to what does success mean? What does success look like in this role? That's what I mean by that. If you define that and then have a worksheet that they fill out leading into their one-on-ones, that's going to equip you with the tools you need to have some hard conversations. And ideally, these conversations shouldn't be hard because we've all been at that job, probably at the mall like me, where your boss is like, hey, do you have a sec? And then you're just like, oh no, what'd I do this time? It never feels good. If you're not consistently checking in with your people and you just throw things at them whenever they do something wrong, they're not going to want to stay there. But if it's consistently a check-in and is genuinely coming from a place of compassion and love and clarity, like there's a point of us getting together, then it allows you to bring up potential issues in a way that can then be really proactive and productive. Here's some examples too, like in this whole thing is setting expectations and communicating them too, because I think that's so important. I have a lot of clients who feel like they do a good job at this, but then I ask questions like this. They'll say, hey, I need you to get that to me soon. What does soon mean? Does soon mean end of day? Does it mean drop what you're doing and do it? Does it mean end of the week? Does it mean when you have a sec? What does soon mean? And then another example of this could be what matters most, meaning like, say a client emails and your team member is managing the email. Would you rather them send a quick response like, hey, we're working on this, I'm going to find the answer? Or would you rather them wait and then give the right answer? Another example of this is what is good? Like, hey, make sure you do a good job. What does good mean? So you can see how to you, as you're listening to this, certain things probably made sense. You probably had some idea of what those words meant. But I guarantee if you asked your team members, you would get different answers from all of them. So not only should you be having those consistent one-on-ones that have that structure and they're clear on their growth plans, they're communicating all of that, but I also think it's so important to communicate your expectations. And culture is caught, not taught. So it's not just a matter of having a massive document. Here's all of our expectations, but it's you communicating it verbally. It's reinforcing it when you see it. It's calling it out when you see it being abused. It's having tough conversations. If you have that ride or die employee who is not living up to the expectations, but everyone else is expected to, you got to check yourself in that situation. Ultimately, I have 2 more things for you to consider when it comes to this leadership stuff. And I just want you to know, like, you need to get out of your people's way. If you really want to scale this business to the empire that it can be, if you want to be able to have your business run while you are not there, you cannot stay in the way of your team. It also doesn't mean you can disappear. So there is some realities of being a small business owner, and that's where I hammer home the point of knowing where you're headed and why, sharing the reality of what's going on today. But at a certain point, once all of this other stuff is dialed in, you have the right people, you've handed off the potato, get out of their way. And if they do something wrong, instead of fixing the problem, use that as a coaching opportunity. Because guess what? Just like they're growing and they're trying out new skill sets and they're gaining new areas of expertise and tools into their career toolkit, so are you. And your role now becomes you get to coach. You are the coach of your business. You are me. You get to come in and you get to coach your team. And if something is wrong, work on solving the process, not the problem. And if something goes right, call it out and acknowledge that. And then the last thing is they don't need to be handed this perfect, polished process. It doesn't stop with them. And if you hire the right person and they do all of these other things, they actually should make the process better than you did. And they hand it off to someone else who makes it better than they did, and so on and so forth. And that's how this hot potato can be effectively passed around to the right people and ultimately lead to you really stepping into that CEO role that your business needs from you. So I encourage you to listen back to this episode. There was probably a lot of information, but the gist of it is this. Clearly communicate to your team, know where you're going and why, hold them to those expectations, and focus on solving processes, not individual specific problems. If this all sounds interesting to you, I would love to invite you to my new offer. It's called the Remastermind, part retreat, part mastermind, specifically for multi-six and revenue entrepreneurs who are wanting to really focus in on this leadership stuff, because it's so important to then create the support and the stability in their business to take it to the next level. I want to get people to the place where they can step away from their business for a week and things keep going. So that's the end goal. That's the offer I have for you today. You can visit my website at kelseymarieknudsen.com/remastermind for more information. Thank you so much, and I'll catch you at the next episode.